This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming back the awesome Joyce Paustian, the old wrestling photographer from way back in the day, and we are going to nerd out on the entertainment of our youth, talking about film, television, and music. She grew up in Iowa. I'm sure she's going to have some interesting stories about television and so forth growing up in the 60s. And she has a book out that we talked about last time, My Ringside Seat to the AWA. It's available on her website, www.joycepaustian.com. And it's going to be another fun conversation today. I'm looking forward to it. And June summer is almost over. We are going to kick off Independent July next week, and I'm so excited. I've got some real toe curlers coming up. It's going to be absolutely fabulous. I am just so friggin' blessed. I think about it all the time, and I ponder it all the time. Like, why the hell am I so blessed of so many people in the world? And I guess I'm a chosen one, and I'm doing the best I can. I'm just enjoying what I'm doing, and all I can do is be blessed. So yeah, here is my new interview with Joyce Paustian.
Hi, Tommy. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Joyce. Welcome back. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are things out where you are?
Everything is fantastic. The weather's nice, and I'm ready to go.
Oh, great, great. It should be a fun talk.
Yeah, so going back in time, do you remember the first movie that impacted you as a child?
Well, that would be probably one of my favorites, which was the original Batman TV series when they made a movie into
Ah,
it of it.
yep,
Probably like in the late '60s. They it was all the villains and Adam West
yep,
and Robin, and I just thought that was great. We saw it at a drive-in, and
yep.
I was a big Batman fan already, so that was really cool for me. The other ones probably were. I was also a big fan of the Dark Shadows series.
Yep.
Yeah, the soap opera with the gothic, characters,
Yep.
and they made some horror films in the
Yep.
late '60s or early '70s. House of Dark Shadows and Night of Dark Shadows, and
Yep.
I saw those in actual theaters, and I didn't like them as well as the TV series, but I thought it was really really well done.
Yeah, my dad was 9 in 1966. My aunt took him and my uncles to see the Batman movie, and it's like one of his favorite memories from childhood.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the show was of course only a half hour, and then it was continued the next night, and then so you'd only get like a whole hour once a week, but to have 2 hours of it, all in one movie, and so many of the they brought in so many new tools and vehicles like the Batcopter and the Batboat and all that. So, as a child, it was really something for me,
Yeah.
and I'm still a Batman fan these days.
Me
So,
too. Me too. And I've talked to Burt Ward. That was a interesting conversation. He's an interesting guy. Um,
yeah, I had a chance to meet him once at a fan convention. Uh, yeah, he's real into dog food and
yeah.
older dogs, I guess.
Yep. Yep, he sure is. Yeah, Back to the Future for me was the first movie that impacted me as a kid. I always had that fantasy
Oh yeah,
of
that was fabulous.
going back in time and seeing my parents in high school and finding out why they're so fucked up and why I'm so fucked up, you know.
That would that would be an experience, wouldn't
It would be.
it? Sometimes you just wish you could understand more of what somebody went through and why are they like they are today.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah, that was a great movie.
thanks to the advent of mental health and the internet, now we all have a better understanding of our parents, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the older you get, the more the things your parents did make sense. I think. When you're a teenager, you think, how can they be so mean, and why won't they let me do this stuff? And even when you're in your 20s and 30s, you think, if I ever have kids, I'm going to treat them different. And then, and then
Exactly.
lately, now I hear my parents coming out when I speak.
Oh yeah, we all get that. What uh, what movie genre did you gravitate toward the most?
Um, I kind of liked a little of a lot of things. I didn't really like all horror because a lot of it got too gory for me. I like the more suspense horror movies.
Hitchcock.
Yeah, I liked a lot of Stephen King type stuff. Those were really great in my book.
Oh yeah.
I like comedy movies to some extent, but again, some of them got um, ridiculous as far as I could. I mean, like the Ghostbusters movie. It was like I watched it again recently, and it was just like this makes no sense at all. But anyway, I mean, but I like the superhero movies. Batman, Superman,
Yep.
Spider-Man. I guess that would be probably my favorites.
Oh yeah. Horror and comedy have always been my favorites. I mean, God. I love all the landmark horror movies: The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, Night of the Living Dead. Friday the
Yeah,
13th is my favorite slasher movie of all time. And they were all game changers, you know?
sure, sure. I saw the Blair Witch Project, and that was they at the time they were trying to say it was a true story, but I watched it and I thought it was uh, unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first Superman movie is my favorite superhero movie ever. I watched it again recently and it just still holds up. And Gene Hackman is just so great as Lex Luthor.
Yeah, he really was. I am looking forward to the new Superman movie coming out this summer. So
I didn't know
they
about
say
it.
it's close. Yeah, there's one coming out July, I think, and a new Superman who they said is comparable to Christopher Reeve, but nobody can replace Christopher Reeve. But I loved that one too. I thought Lois Lane was really good, and
Hmm.
it just it was a good plot, and I loved how he saved the world by turning time back.
Yeah.
I, yeah, it was groundbreaking, and I liked the ones that had more happier endings. Where Batman kind of got a little too dark for me. A few of them,
Yeah.
uh,
I
but
like The Dark Knight. You know, I thought Heath Ledger was great
yeah.
as the Joker, you know, but yeah, it's
Oh,
just
I did too. Yeah, the villains were great. It's just Batman was kind of like dark and brooding, which I understand. That's kind of how the comic book was written. But I was used to the TV series, and so I wanted it to be a little more like that, where Batman was the hero always.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
I think that the Marvel universe has just become so overblown and just it's really killed Hollywood in terms of like art films and comedy movies being released in theaters.
Yeah, well, and then COVID hit and took care of a lot of them. It's starting to come back, but it's not like it was. So the other one I really liked that I thought was groundbreaking was Saturday Night Fever with John Travolta
Oh yeah,
and just all the music that came out of that and was just really they released almost every song from that, and it became a hit, and it was just so perfect of a guy a guy who could only dance and really had no promise in life, but he followed his dream, and he was successful, even though he had a rough family life and that. So I liked that one a lot.
My mom for 50 years has wanted to be Mrs. John Travolta. Her birthday is 3 days after his, the same year too.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Of course, I like the Star Wars movies. I could watch those almost over and over anytime.
Yeah. The first one, oh
they,
my God. Yeah.
yeah, that really changed everything. I think it was in our theater for 9 months.
Yeah,
So
first we had Jaws. That was the first summer blockbuster, and then
yes,
Star
yes,
Wars kept it going. In '76, there were like no summer blockbusters really, but 2 years later, in '77, it changed it once and for all.
yeah, and to where you came to expect a summer blockbuster every year. Yeah, and I thought it took. I was sad that it took so long to get all of the Star Wars movies out, but I thought I was glad when they finally all came out, and I knew the whole story or the prequels, even though the prequels weren't anywhere near as good as the originals. I just really liked all of them, and
Yeah.
and I had to watch each of them several times to really understand what was happening and who all the characters were and how it all fit together.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen footage. There's all these kids lined up around the block with their parents in '77 to go see Star Wars because they want to see what the fuss is all about this movie, because there was no internet. Everything was much more contained. It was really special
Right.
back then. And the movie premiered on HBO on a school night, and every school in America had kids calling in sick because they stayed up late to watch Star Wars.
Yeah, it really is a movie that appeals to all generations. I think it's got the gee whiz vehicles going back and forth, and it's just constant action. And it's also got the love story, and it's got the heroes and villains, and it's just really well acted all over, and just
Yeah.
so many characters. It's really hard to keep track of. Okay, now who's this guy again, and why do we know him?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the way it was for me. But I can see why um, kids really loved it. I mean, I was a little too old for all the toys by the time those came out, but
my
it was really something to see all that in the stores.
My brother was born in '73, so he got to see it from the get-go. But I was born a week and a half, about maybe 2 weeks after Return of the Jedi came out in 1983. So I missed that. I missed that phenomenon. I got to see the prequels, of course, but I didn't like the prequels. I thought the acting was very wooden and just it was all special effects garbage.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I was glad for the storyline to fill in the holes of how we got to where the other one was, but they didn't. Uh, they just didn't compare to the originals.
Absolutely.
But I could, whenever they rerun them, or that, like our one of our independent theaters here is showing the three big ones. The Star 4, 5, and 6 this summer, and they all sold out again. So
Yeah.
people just still have a hunger to see all that and can watch them over and over again.
So so
So
what so what co-
that
mhm. So
go ahead.
what comedies did you like?
On TV.
Movie
Well,
comedies,
I was
movie.
movie comedies. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, not not too many, but let me see. I made some notes here. Uh,
Like were you in Mel Brooks?
oh yeah. I like the Spaceballs
Yep.
and Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
That was one of my
That's my
favorites.
favorite. Yeah.
And Airplane, I loved.
Ah,
Yeah,
love Airplane.
all the jokes about looks like it's they picked the wrong
Day to
week to
quit
give up
smoking. Yeah.
drinking, smoking, whatever.
Yeah.
That was just constant gags. Yeah. So thank you for that.
the the
I'd forgotten
the
those.
the funny bald gay guy in that movie, Steven Stucker, just cracks me up.
Yeah.
I love in I love in the second one when Lloyd Bridges first comes back to the control panel. He says, "Jacobs, tell me everything that's happened up to this point," and he proceeds to tell him, and then he says, "And then the Arabs came and they bought Mercedes Benzes."
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, he answers every question so literally.
Yeah, yeah, he's a
It's
literal
just
kind of a
great.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, what
Did,
hospital? It's a hospital or something. And, well, that's beside the point, but yeah,
did you like the
it was great.
Did you like the Pink Panther movies?
Somewhat, yeah. I didn't get into them as much as some of the others, but they were good. Yeah,
Yeah, I love those.
yeah, they're good. I always enjoy if it wasn't too obscure a movie or weird. I usually would go to the bigger movies and see them. I don't have the memory that for them that you do, but but they were always fun to go to.
American Graffiti.
Yeah, yeah, that was wonderful because I
Ah,
mean that was a little beyond my era, but it was again it made me understand better. My brother was older and he went through that era of the
mm-hmm.
'60s, and but I didn't really understand about the drive-ins and
Sock
the
hops.
car hops and all
Yeah,
that, and and dragging on the ones, type thing, and it it gave you a better appreciation of how that was the fun for those kids,
yeah,
and just the dangers involved in it too.
yeah. I mean, Roger Ebert's review was very bone chilling because he said something that he nailed. He says, American Graffiti is a reminder just to how dark the world has become since 1962. You know, he wrote this in 63 or in 73, and he said, you know, the Kennedy, Martin Luther King assassination, women's lib happened. There was lots of darkness going on in the world, Vietnam, and just like American Graffiti is a constant reminder as to how innocent the world was in 1962.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies like that where, and I even feel that way about some of the '70s and '80s movies. It's just like the longer we go on and the more we know about the world, the instant news and the constant news feeds, it does just overwhelm you, and you find yourself just begging for a more innocent time where we didn't know everything or have
Yeah.
to worry about everything constantly. Yeah. So, yeah, I understand the escape on that, and where your biggest problem was is your car might not be fast enough. Yeah.
Uh, did you love Western movies growing up?
Not so much. I mean, I love horses, but in real life, but I guess I didn't get into too much of the old west type thing.
Because
I didn't hate it, but it wouldn't have been my first choice. Um,
my dad, he's the least macho guy I know. He loves John Wayne and Clint Eastwood, and like when I was growing up, always a Western on. And when the Western Channel came in the 2000s, oh, he was happier than a pig in shit, I'll tell you. And I'd go over to his place, and then he'd be watching stuff that I had never even heard of at that time. Like I didn't know who Audie Murphy was. I didn't know
yeah.
who Joel McRae was, and like I learned about it from the Western Channel because that stuff was not on when I was a kid. You know, all the popular stuff that I just mentioned, John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, Glenn Ford, that was all on. But like those guys who like kind of got obscured over time, you know, were on the Western Channel.
Yeah, a lot of people I know love to watch the TV series like Gunsmoke and
Yeah.
Wagon Train, and I watch once in a while. Yeah, there's some storylines on like a show like Gunsmoke that it can appeal to me. It's not all um, just shooting and writing and
Yeah.
I don't. It's okay, but it's not wouldn't be my first choice.
Well, I watched a Gregory Peck Western the other day called Duel in the Sun, and it was beautiful the way it was shot. It was in Technicolor 1946, and Gregory Peck was so handsome and just a badass.
Sure.
And there wasn't a ton of action in it. It was more like a romantic western, but there was some decent enough action in it, and I thought it was very well made. It was a David O. Selznick western and stuff. You know, he was an artistic like producer in Hollywood. I mean, he produced a lot of great movies like The Jazz Singer with Al Jolson and stuff.
Yeah, there are some really great movies on it. I had a chance to go on a bus trip in about 10 years ago now, but out to see Monument Valley, and they
Hmm.
were talking about all the movies that were made out there, and we got to watch one of them, one of the John Wayne movies, and while we were there, and to see like how they used some of the scenery as a backdrop, and it was interesting. I found that part um, that helped really enjoy. I really enjoyed that.
Right.
So
Did you have any
so
did you have any movie crushes growing up?
um, probably. I'm trying to think. Later, I did, but I'm trying to think early on. Uh, Not really that much. More TV crushes, I would say. So, but not the, what I mentioned about Adam West. I
Hmm.
had a big crush on him. uh, but more music or TV crushes, I would say, as opposed to movie stars. The movie stars just seem to me the really big ones to be older than I was at the time growing up, and like they would be old enough to be my dad or grandpa, So,
Yeah.
so, but I guess I would say Hans. Um, oh, help me here. Harrison Ford
Yeah.
in Star Wars. Yeah, I thought he was very good looking, very very hot. So
Yeah.
I didn't like uh, Mark Hamill as much at the time because he seemed like he was just kind of more awkward or something, but and not the big hero that Han Solo was. So,
Oh yeah.
but. But I mean, I've come to like. I mean, I would love to have met Mark Hamill, and I know he's been doing some conventions now.
Yeah, he charges
But
like $400 for an autograph.
yeah, I don't like him that much. Okay.
Yeah.
But at least for a true fan who would enjoy it, I guess it's good that he's out there.
Yeah.
Um,
Arnold Schwarzenegger charges 500. I mean, that's how crazy it is
Holy
with
cow!
these big
It's
A-list
just
stars. Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, I know. I go to some of the wrestling conventions still, and most of them are in the $50 to $100 range, but there's a few of them who are up to 200 to 300. And that's just too much.
Yeah.
Nobody's worth that.
Are there any movie characters that you related to the most?
Um, I don't know. Let's see. Probably more like I said, like some of the Stephen King movies. I thought I had read most of the books, and I thought one of my favorites was The Dead Zone,
Oh yeah.
and just the sadness of that, where the girl was engaged to the guy who had the accident, and then. He was in the coma and came back, and then had these superpowers, but each one took him further and further away. I just really found myself relating to that whole. Not that I really had anybody that went through that. It just rang true to me, like just the heartache that the girl went through and what he was going through. And I thought the book was still better than the movie, but I still enjoyed seeing the movie. Um, Probably I like the movie Ordinary People. Again, it didn't go through anything exactly like that, but
Yeah.
I felt like I was a lot like Timothy Hutton,
Mm-hmm.
where I was kind of a loner and that nobody really understood me,
Yeah.
um, and that I couldn't really relate to anybody else for a long time. So that one really rang true to me.
Yeah.
And my parents were nothing like that. I mean, if anything, my mom, both my mom and dad were very understanding people. But I don't know. I just felt sorry for him, really.
Yeah, Peter Sellers in Being There is a character I can relate to because he's a little autistic and he can influence people by saying the most simplest things. And like I tend to do that with people too. I don't know how I do it, but I've done it a lot. And James,
Yeah, well, you're very intuitive, and very you remember everything much better than most people do, and so that's a gift.
it
Yeah.
sure is. It sure is. And James Spader in Sex, Lies, and Videotape. He's a voyeur. I'm a voyeur too, so I could relate to him.
Yeah, yeah, those are all good. Probably my biggest movie crush was, and none of those movies have been really all that great. Was George Clooney? I really like. I
Yeah.
always thought he was super handsome. Uh, but uh, and and yet when he played Batman, that was one of the worst reviewed Batmans ever. So, but I still liked that one actually because I think that was the same one that had Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze in it, and so I enjoyed that one more than most.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Did you go to the drive-in a lot growing up?
when my brother would take me, which wasn't always because he always would rather go on a date. My mom and dad didn't usually want to stay up that late, if you can believe it, because most of the drive-ins didn't start till like 9 o'clock, and then be a double feature, and you'd have a 9 o'clock movie and a 10:30 movie, which was usually like an R-rated one. So
Yeah.
they didn't have around here. They didn't have a lot of uh, G or PG movies for kids. I
Yeah.
remember one we went to as a family was, believe it or not, a was the Brian Keith and Doris Day movie. I think with I don't know, maybe it's not Doris Day. I don't, with Six You Get Egg Roll.
Oh
That was
yes.
the
Yeah.
so that was that
Yeah.
was the one that my mom and dad felt comfortable going to. And then I think we left before the second feature started. So and then, like I said, Batman, and um, it didn't last very long around here. I didn't date a lot, so I
Hmm.
didn't have. The one guy I did date that we went to a drive-in was more into the oh crap just the some of the Rambo type movies, or more of the anti-hero type movies, some of the war movies in the 70s, and I didn't really enjoy those too much, and we didn't end up dating all that long, so I didn't go to too many of them. Uh, so really not that many drive-ins. We only have one drive-in left in the area now, and but they've kind of been they really only kind of show kids movies, and I'd love to go back, but just see one, but I don't know what the experience would be.
Yeah, my parents started taking me to drive-in when I was two. You know, I mean, it always starts young what your destiny is. You know, I mean, I was using a VCR at at like 1. I mean, I learned how to do it and stuff. Just movies have always been a part of my life.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you've seen almost all of them, so
Yeah.
that's really something.
Yeah, I got a huge.
Yeah, I didn't. My parents weren't really movie watchers, so I kind of had to do a lot of catching up by the time I was a teenager, and then some of the girlfriends that I had, we'd go as a group to some of the movies of the late '70s and '80s, but usually that wasn't the big thing. Oh, I thought of another comedy that I liked. It was that Truman Capote Murder by Death.
Oh, I just watched that
I love.
recently. I love that
Did you?
movie. Yeah, it's been a while since
That
I've
is so
seen it.
funny.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it. I just cracked up.
Such a spoof on all the different detectives and how they try to wrap things up and come up with a killer that you never suspected it could possibly be. I love
Yeah,
that.
I love it. What's her name? Outs Peter Falk is gay, and he's like, "You bitch."
Yeah,
It's hilarious.
yeah, yeah, and the one in the wheelchair and the other one pushing, and she's the helper, and the other one is the actual detective. But
Yeah,
it was a really good spoof, I thought.
it is. It's a spoof of Agatha Christie, and it's just hilarious. And
All of
it's
them,
Neil
yeah.
Simon too. It's Neil Simon's take on Agatha Christie. I love everything that Neil Simon did. He's brilliant.
I agree. Yeah,
The Sunshine
very much
Boys.
so.
I love the Sunshine Boys and The Odd Couple and Biloxi Blues. The guy could write, and he wrote for old Jewish Borscht Belt comedians, and so like he would put a lot of one-liners into his characters' mouths.
Yeah, yeah. I love the Odd Couple movie, and then of course the TV series I thought was great too. But even though it's different characters, different actors, I mean, and then
Except for
like the man.
except for Speed, John Fiedler, he played him in the movie and the TV show.
Yeah, isn't that's kind of neat when that happens? Just like MASH, very few of the characters
Yep.
were we stayed on for the TV series, but they always seem to come up with really good actors. So it seemed even when they had to replace somebody that left.
Yeah. So getting into television, like what sitcoms did you watch growing up?
I was big on the '60s sitcoms. Like I would say, well, I started out with Andy Griffith,
Yep.
Petticoat Junction, Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, probably, and then more the teen type ones would be the Monkees and the Partridge
Me
Family.
too. Huge fan of the Monkees. Mm.
Yeah, actually, for me, that was ended up being a cross collectible type thing because my favorite wrestler was in a couple of the episodes, and there was one episode about the bodybuilder. I think it was Dave Draper,
Yeah.
and out in California, and where they're at a gym, and one of them's trying to not be a 90-pound weakling anymore or something, and try and blow up and. There's actual wrestlers in that one, so I always was glad when that one was on. But I liked a lot of the music with it too, and I thought that one was it kind of didn't get its due during the original run. I think the teenagers liked it, but some of the critics hated it, and I
Yeah.
thought it was silly. But it turned out to be more groundbreaking later, in the reruns. Say so.
Yeah.
But I like the more rural, funny. Oh, Gilligan's Island is another one I liked.
Yep. Huge fan.
So just the silly comedies with the laugh tracks. I can watch them over and over again, and I have some of my favorite episodes of them, and just it's just really silly comedy, but it made me laugh. And then also I love the Get Smart series
Yep.
with Don Adams and that.
Barbara Feldon
I thought,
and
Yeah, I thought, and Chaos, the
Yeah.
the evil empire. Yeah.
Yeah, Dick Godier
Uh,
playing Jaime the robot.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
you
watched
never knew which agent be popping up out of which garbage can or whatever.
yeah. I remember I loved I Dream of Jeannie, and
That was good too. I love those. Yeah.
June is National Belly Button Month, and there's that controversy surrounding her belly button that they had to
I can't
reshoot the
believe
pilot.
that.
Yeah, they had to reshoot the pilot, and then 2 years later, Gene Roddenberry broke that rule once and for all on Star Trek, but with Barbara Luna and Nichelle Nichols, and I got to meet Barbara Luna because I interviewed her years ago. I got to meet her this month at the Hollywood show, and I got to touch it, and it was the greatest moment of my life.
Yeah, you look back on some of those silly rules that they had, and see how far we've come the other way, and you go, how could they possibly have objected to that?
I know.
But they did. It was a simpler time, but people were like, I think it was like an older generation that was just still not really attuned to what was happening in the 60s and 70s. So,
While I was
but Barbie Eden was great in that. Yeah.
Yeah, while I was there, I got to meet Little Ricky Ricardo and I Love Lucy, and
Oh wow.
I got to meet Gilbert on Leave It to Beaver and stuff, and
That would be an awesome convention. Yeah.
it was amazing. There's a lot of people that I didn't get to meet. Some of them canceled, some of them I just didn't have money for. They were all charging like big money there, I'll tell you, big. And luckily I had it for what I had. I got some stuff for free because it was my birthday, so
Cool. Yeah. It's amazing how you can rack up a ton of money in those things, but because we go to a lot of the ones where some of the wrestlers are at, and
yeah.
then every once in a while I'll see that there's a TV character that I enjoy too while I'm there, and then I think, do I really want to spend the extra money for that too? And then sometimes I go, yeah, I got to do this. Because you never know when, some of them, as they're getting older, you think this could be my last chance to meet them,
Oh yeah.
so.
Oh yeah, I met Barbara Steele. I've been trying to meet her for years because I've seen her at cons, and I've seen her cancel at them, and I had to pay $113 for an autograph and a picture with her, and it was worth it to me because she's almost 90.
Yeah, those are the one. And when you know what really makes it worse, that is when they're nice and able to chat with you a little bit. I mean, I
Yeah.
know sometimes they have a really long line and they have to keep things moving, but I've met some really nice people through that, and usually it's usually opposite to the ones that charge the absolute most. The ones that charge the most usually are kind of real pricks, and
Yeah.
the ones that are the lesser characters are really happy that you remember them.
Yeah. Did you watch Laugh-In growing up?
Oh, big time. Yeah, that was one of my favorites. Yeah, I loved all the different people popping out of the wall, and
Hmm.
yeah, and just all the music and the graphics, the pop art of the 70s. Yeah, it was great. And
Yeah.
I thought Rowan and Martin were good with the as MCs of it, and
Yeah.
I loved Artie Johnson, who both the German character that he played, very interesting, and then also
Very
the
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Ruth Buzzy character
The
who
old
would
lady,
sit
Gladys
on the park
Oomfby.
bench, and yeah, she'd bash him with her purse. Yeah.
Or Artie Johnson riding that little tricycle and then falling into a pole or something. That was like
Yeah.
reoccurring. I don't know how many times he had to do that.
Yeah. And my parents actually had a chance to meet him when they were out in Las Vegas. Not he was appearing at a hotel, and they got to ride up on the elevator with him and said hello to him, and I was like, oh man, I wish I could have been there.
Yeah, you know, it's funny.
But
I watched it on Nick at Night when I was a kid, and it was 30 minutes long. And I've watched the full length episodes on Tubi recently. No wonder it was cut down to 30 minutes because not every joke is funny.
right, right. But you know, it's kind of like the early version of when Saturday Night Live was funny. You know,
Yeah.
it was kind of like you didn't know what the skits were going to be, and you didn't. And not like you said, not all of them worked. Some of them fell flat on their face, and
Yeah.
not all of them held up in time because you had to kind of know what was happening in the news at the time.
Remember,
And
remember when country singers had variety shows back then?
yes, Glenn Campbell
Kenny
and
Rogers in the first edition, Johnny Cash.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's like
yeah.
nobody even remembers that anymore because it was just a small window of society, but everyone was trying to be laughing in those days. Sonny and Cher, I think, did a pretty good job with it.
Well, and then the Smothers Brothers.
Smothers
Remember?
Brothers.
Did you ever see any of those? Yeah,
Oh yes.
they were pretty funny.
The Who was on there, and they frickin' practically blew up the stage with with Keith Moon's drum set. There was like a grenade in there or something.
You know, some of those summer replacement shows got away with a lot.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I don't think the networks knew what they were getting into. They just knew that their big star was off for the summer, and like, well, we'll put this on, see if we get any viewers, and then all of a sudden they do something really groundbreaking like that,
Oh yeah.
and
They
it becomes a big controversy.
Oh yeah, they got canceled over they were trying to do something anti-Nixon, and the network was no, you're not going to do that. And Tommy Smothers
Yeah.
said like fuck you or something to them, and then they got canceled, and their careers were never the same again after that.
No, I know. Yeah, it was a huge anti-war sentiment at that time, and so I mean, the younger people were liking it, but the older folks, they were like, "Oh no, we can't allow this." We see enough of that on the news.
Oh yeah.
So, but now, nowadays, they're more appreciated for what they did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I watched a lot of those.
The Twilight Zone?
I was like a TV hound. I watched everything I could.
Yeah, did you watch The Twilight Zone?
Oh yeah, yeah. I could nowadays. They've had so many of them repeated on Nick at Night or a Sci-Fi Channel that I can almost repeat all. I tell like within the first 2 minutes which one it's going to be. Or
Yeah.
I don't think there's any that I've missed. And then
Talking Tina.
there's pardon.
Talking
Day of Talkie Tina.
Talking
Yeah,
Tina.
with Telly Savalas. Yeah,
Yeah.
that I don't like you.
Yeah, and that little girl, she was the voice of, I believe it was Lucy Van Pelt on the Charlie Brown Christmas special in
Oh, really?
'65. Yes, and I asked her to come on
I
here.
did not know that.
I asked her to come on here years ago, and she said she got in trouble for doing a podcast like a year or two before with her job. She's like, I think she's like a librarian for like an elementary school or something now.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. She, and I mean, you would think they would be happy about that, because I mean, what's wrong with doing a podcast?
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
I understand that if she, I understand her reluctance, but if she did get in trouble, but
This year is the 60th.
Anyway.
This year is the 60th anniversary. If she's retired by now, I will reach out to her again.
yeah, maybe someday she'll be freer to talk. Yeah, the other one I liked that was in that same genre was Night Gallery.
Yes.
With Rod Serling.
Yeah.
And I thought they were, for me at that age, they were scary. I can tell you.
Yeah.
And,
I did an interview with his daughter, and she told me when he was on the Twilight Zone, MGM Studios gave him so much creativity and autonomy to do whatever he wanted. But when he did Night Gallery at Universal, it was so corporate they didn't let him do anything he wanted, and he died pretty much disliking Night Gallery.
Oh, that's too bad. Because I thought it was going to be kind of in the same area of like Twilight Zone, which I thought was hugely scary and groundbreaking. And we still like to watch some of them.
Yeah.
There's so many that were just so great. I'm trying to remember which ones are some of my favorites, but.
Yeah, the one where Bill Mummy's the bad kid who makes bad things happen.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The,
yeah, but yeah, he wouldn't like that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Or
too close to the truth, Emma.
Susan Gordon. She's a little girl who hangs out with this old man who can turn into a bat and different things. Do you remember that one? And Nancy Culp is her aunt, and she's a complete narcissist.
Oh yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah.
Nancy Culp from Beverly Hillbillies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's amazing how many actors or actresses you saw on that show before they became famous.
Oh yeah, Robert Redford.
It's a lot of yeah. That's one of my favorite. Oh, who played the deaf guy?
Yeah.
The old lady who was afraid to let anybody in, and then she let him in because he needed help, and it turned out he was the one she shouldn't have let in. But then it turned. I liked that one a lot.
I love the ones with Burgess Meredith.
Oh yeah, Time Enough at Last for the books. Yeah.
Yeah. He loses his reading glasses, and then there's the one where he's the devil. He's scary in that one.
Oh, very much. Yeah. Yeah, the ones like that are the one I really like is the one oh boy, it's the one where he goes back. It's the guy who is driving and he's in a rat race, and he goes back to this park, and it turns out he meets his mom and dad, and it turns out to be the park that he had as a kid. I'm blanking on the title, but it was I think his name was Martin, and
I don't remember.
But I just thought it was so neat that he went back and he had the chance to see his childhood and relive those days, and then it turned out he didn't belong there. They told him, you can't stay here because this is. He met himself as a little boy.
Yeah. I remember that now. Yeah, I remember that one. Did you?
And he hurt his leg on the merry-go-round, and then he remembered. That was one of my absolute favorites.
Did you see the Beatles?
As you wouldn't know from the way I just described it.
I know, but when you said that he met himself as a kid, I remembered that plot point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see the Beatles on Ed Sullivan back then?
I would have only been about 6, but I didn't quite. I've seen it on video later or YouTube later, but I didn't see it live. My cousin was older, and she was always talking them up to me about how great they were, and I liked hearing the music because my brother would play it a lot, but I didn't see it live, and my parents probably wouldn't have let me watch anyway.
Yeah, I interviewed the comedy team that went on right after them, Mitzi McCall and Charlie Burrell. One of my favorite interviews I've ever done. They were so damn funny. And backstage, they were getting Coca-Colas out of the machine, and John Lennon saw them, and so he knocked on their dressing room door a few minutes later, and he said, "Excuse me, I need a Coke for Ringo." And they didn't know who Ringo was, right? They didn't know any of the band members' names. you know. And so Mitzi,
Yeah, it was too new. Yeah.
yeah, and so Mitzi was like, "A Coke for Ringo? What's that? A Jewish holiday we don't know about?"
Oh, what a historic moment, though. And what a tough act to follow, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and when Davy
Yeah,
Jones, Davy Jones was in a circus act or something like right after them.
yeah, yeah.
He
Wow.
was in some kind of a team act or something, and I did hear him talk about it in interviews.
Yeah, the one I wish I would have seen live, or was I guess there was a big controversy with the Doors being on there
On Ed
and
Sullivan, yeah,
Jim
yeah,
Morrison,
yeah,
and about whether he could say the line about "Light My Fire,"
yeah.
and
He looked right at
yeah,
Sullivan, right on the
yeah, he
monitor's
did.
eyes, and just completely bitch slapped him.
Yeah, he really did.
Mick Jagger did that
Uh,
too. Mick Jagger did that
yeah,
too.
right.
He's supposed to say,
Yeah,
"Let's
it
spend some
was.
time together." You know, it's let's
Oh,
spend the
yeah,
night together.
please.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's the other one that was a really great moment.
yeah. He was a strange
But
guy, Ed Sullivan.
but he had this show where basically he brought in a lot of all the talents were really widely different because I watched some of them where we were seeing the whole show rerun, and there were people that were acrobats or plate spinners or
Yeah,
trampoline artists or whatever, and then he had all these groundbreaking musicians on there, and he didn't. I don't know if he ever really appreciated how great they were or
no.
how great they were going to be, and
I think he just
just
had
didn't
them on for the.
understand what he had.
Yeah, I think he just had them on for the ratings and to appeal to the young crowd. You know, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. You know, but like Jackie Mason flipped him off, and then his career was dead for 20 years until he did his one man show on Broadway, and then he made Caddyshack 2, and he had that sitcom Chicken Soup, and then his career was dead again because it became known he was a tyrant.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, Ed was able to make or break a lot of careers, but I'm glad some of the rock groups didn't listen to what they wanted to censor.
Did
So.
did you watch Hee Haw growing up?
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, absolutely.
We just lost Gaylord Sartain. He passed away last week.
Oh, yeah, I loved just the ones that would pop up. The song that they would sing in between. I searched the world over and thought I found true love.
Yeah,
And then you were gone. I
yeah,
love that song. How stupid was it? But it's just great.
yeah.
And then I like Junior Samples and yeah, I just thought. Well, I loved Roy Clark's music.
Oh yeah.
I thought he was really talented, more talented even than Buck Owens.
Yeah, he was the spokesman for ketchup when I was a kid.
Yeah, he really became a more serious musician later on. I loved that song "Yesterday When I Was Young," and
Hmm.
later on. So, but yeah, he was kind of the goofier one of the two hosts, but
Yeah.
really had a lot of talent. But yeah, I loved all that. It was kind of the country version of Laugh-In.
Oh
So,
yeah, big time. And then there's what's her name? She's got kind of a goofy name, and she like became a born again Christian later, and she was really bawdy back then. I mean, she like had sexual connotations in her jokes. Do you remember who I'm talking about? Dixie or something like that. She was on Laughing or Hee
I
Haw.
probably
Yeah,
I probably saw her, but I don't remember her right off.
yeah. I
Um,
think it was like
yeah,
Dixie
it's
or
not.
something. Yeah.
Could very well be. I remember Lulu Roman, wasn't it?
Oh, it's
Or
Lulu.
she,
Lulu Roman. That's who I'm talking about. Yeah.
okay, yeah. Oh, really? She became religious later on.
Yeah. 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 And she was like really bawdy back then.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what I liked about the show. It's just so so crazy it was funny.
Yeah,
But and it was fast paced too for that era. So if you didn't like one thing, you moved right into the next.
remember Howard Cosell on the Wide World of Sports?
Oh yeah, I love that opening. How many times did we see that guy, fall down
Yeah,
the alpine ski hill?
yeah.
The agony of defeat.
That guy,
Yeah.
that guy got away with saying so much that you couldn't get away with now. I mean,
Oh,
Cos,
Cosell.
yeah,
Yeah.
he'd be on a Dean
Yeah.
Martin roast, and they'd make fun of his wig. You know?
Yeah. I know, and I don't know. I guess I was too naive to even know that it was a wig. But yeah, he was the subject of a lot of imitators. Howard Cosell.
But there's no one like him. No one. That.
Well, he seemed like he was really well liked in the boxing community as well, because
Oh yeah.
uh, like Muhammad Ali, and he had some really classic interviews over the years.
Oh yeah. I
So
made you, Cosell. Yeah.
yeah,
Do you remember?
yeah, he was.
Do you remember like Super Bowl III?
I probably watched it, but I don't remember.
The Jets with
I
Joe
don't, I
Namath.
don't know the. Oh, okay. Then.
Yeah. And then what's his
Yeah.
name? Johnny
Okay.
Unitas on whatever team he was on, and it got interrupted by that TV movie Heidi.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, did they ever live? They never lived that one down.
Oh no, and
I think.
Jennifer Edwards, who played Heidi, she's become a friend of mine. I've had her on the podcast a couple times because Blake Edwards is her father. I worship the Pink Panther movies and his work in general. And yeah, she told me she got hate mail from like alpha football fans.
And it wasn't even her fault. I mean, it was like
No,
that was the movie that was supposed to be on, but it was the network executives that decided to cut away from the football. Yeah. So,
yeah,
but people have to have somebody to blame. So,
yeah, and like I think her and Joe Namath got offered to play love interest on an episode of Love Boat, and I think they turned it down or something.
yeah. Why start up that controversy again? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's sorry I didn't relate that to Super Bowl III, but yeah, I remember that. We were watching, and because I was going to watch Heidi, and and I remember like seeing the football on, and then and then me as a kid, I thought, oh, good, they're going to have Heidi, but then my dad was upset. Yeah, the game's not over. So
yeah,
I think they never did that again. Probably cut away from a game before it's over.
yeah.
They heard the wrath of football fans.
Now talking about music, do you remember the first album you were given or you bought with your own money?
Yeah, it was a Neil Diamond record.
Nice.
So and had a lot of his early hits on it, and uh, there were so many of his early hits that I really liked, and I played it over and over again. And then, strangely, I liked a lot of the early stuff of the band Queen, and
Oh yeah.
when they were all together, and then
Hmm.
also Alice Cooper
Oh,
because he would cross the
huge.
horror genre. Yeah,
First concert I ever went to that was huge was Alice Cooper. He is a showman.
isn't he? Yeah, I've seen it like 5 times, but uh, they I've seen the same guillotine thing several times, but it's still cool.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, my dad was a
Yeah.
musician, so like he had vinyl records up the yin yang. He had Beatles, Stones, Beach Boys, Rod Stewart. Him and my mom are big Rod Stewart fans. Foreigner, Captain Beefheart.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Yeah, yeah, Foreigner, Kansas. Um, one Okay, I'm sorry about that car alarm in the background.
Oh,
If you
it's
can hear
okay.
that,
It's
that's
okay.
so it's like somebody doesn't realize it's going off. Obviously, um, but anyway, I don't know if you ever saw the vinyl jacket for Alice Cooper's "Welcome to My Nightmare."
Oh, I've had all the albums, of course.
Yeah, it's where he's got the all the makeup on the front, and it's got the doors that open, and
Yeah.
it's going through like this mental institution, and he's
Oh
in a
no,
straitjacket,
no,
and
that's from the inside. That's that
that's
album.
your that. I'm sorry. You're right.
Yes.
You're why would I think you're not right? Yeah, yeah, that's the one I really like. Sorry.
Yeah, that's
Um,
a scary,
I
great
think that was
album.
one of the absolute best albums I ever saw,
I
just
agree.
as far from a design standpoint.
I
And
agree. That's a
of
classic.
course, I liked the Boston album where it came with the starship in it,
Oh yeah.
where that you could put together the cardboard. I really liked his albums because they had the words to it for one thing, most of them,
Oh yeah.
and it told you more about the songs and that. So even though they were scratchier than than the CDs, eventually there was something just really raw about the music on it, and mine were ended up being all scratched to heck by the time I'd get done because I play them over and over again, but uh, I still loved them.
What was your first
So,
concert?
and first concert was Eddie Money.
I
um,
saw
and,
him. I met him too after the show.
oh, that's neat. Yeah, they didn't. The night that I went, they didn't have the Star Wars. They didn't have the where you could meet the star. But later on, I did a couple of those. I did one with the where you could go backstage with the monkeys and
Hmm.
um, or the few that were left of it.
My mom got to meet the Beatles backstage at the Cow Palace in
Oh wow!
'64. She got their autographs back then. You didn't think about getting a picture with them like you do now. And my uncle accidentally threw out the autographs, and to this day, she will not let him, give him a pass on it. She is so pissed at
Oh
him
my
about
gosh!
it.
Oh my gosh! I would be too.
Yeah.
The one I was really disappointed in was, like I said, I was a big, as a teeny bopper, I was a big Partridge Family.
Yeah.
I liked the show, and then I liked their music as well
I
as
think
early
I
on.
love
And
you.
yeah, and I loved David Cassidy. I thought he was so hot, on Tiger Beat and all that,
Oh yeah.
but meeting him, he was such a jerk.
Oh, yeah, I've heard he was
And
a jerk. Yeah, and you know what's funny?
yeah,
He did that cover of Rolling Stone where he was like practically naked, but everything was covered, and that killed the show. Like the producers were offended by that, and they're like, "We're ending the show. We can't do it now because your image has been tarnished forever."
yeah, he wanted to be something he wasn't. Yeah, he ended up hating the show, and it was like that's the show that made you, though. You wouldn't have been who you were and except that. And he didn't want to play any of the songs, and he didn't want to meet the fans, and so it really tarnished my view of the show. But yeah, there were several others though that I thought were really good. Styx was one. ELO I thought was a groundbreaking
Oh
band.
yeah, I wish I had saw them on
Let's
their
see what.
farewell tour. They did their farewell tour last year. I heard they were great. They did like 30.
Uh,
They did like 30 songs every night.
yeah. I've been lucky enough to see some really enduring bands. I got to see the Eagles, not on this last trip, but I did get to see them once in the
Mhm.
90s, and so when it was still kind of the whole band.
I saw
That
Vet.
was big. That Hotel California band,
Yeah,
our album was really big. Uh,
I saw.
so those were the ones.
I saw Van Halen with Cool in the Gang opening. I shit you not.
Wow.
Back in
That's an unusual combination.
Well, David Lee Roth likes R&B, so I kind of wasn't surprised, but I was surprised because they weren't announced, and we were getting closer to the venue, and I was like, "Is that Cool in the Gang?" They playing it over the intercom. I was like, "Oh no, they're there." It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, Van Halen changed a little bit with the different members of the band, but they were still good no matter what. I got to see them once, and I still like all the music of the late '70s and the '80s, the rock music. That would be my favorite. But
Me too.
I liked some of the '90s grunge music, but
Yeah, same here.
then then after that, it either became too much just bubblegum pop music or hip hop or something. I just couldn't get into that. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, music has been weird ever since, but
yeah,
I'm starting to come around. Yeah.
there every once in a while there's a song that I'll go, oh, is that a current piece? Well, that's not too bad, but I still go back to wanting to listen to the old stuff I know. So
Do you remember your first makeout song?
hmm, not really. I mean, I had a lot of songs that I sang to myself after after a breakup, like a breakup song, but not so much a makeout song. Um, I remember the controversy. I don't know if this was nationwide, but locally, the song "Kiss You All Over" by Exile.
Yeah.
That they wouldn't. We had radio stations that wouldn't play that song at the time, and consequently, that became a big hit for them here because people wanted to hear it, and so
Yeah.
that was one that I could think of, or I don't know, "Come On Eileen." I liked that one.
Oh my God, that's a good one. Yeah.
Dexys Midnight Runners. Yeah.
I tried to get the girl who plays violin in the band to come on here. She was rude to me,
Oh yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
too bad. Yeah, it was. That was a great one.
My first
A lot of the people at work liked that one.
my first makeout song was Janet Jackson's "Love Will Never Do Without You," and
Oh, uh-huh.
it led to my first heavy petting experience, which was fantastic, Joyce.
I'm glad you have that memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's more like I just had music on afterwards, but not so much during. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, um, like I remember from the Clint Eastwood movie. Oh golly, this is what happens when you get old. You forget things.
Oh, it's
But
starting
it
with
was
me.
the first time ever I saw your face,
Huh.
and it was "Play Misty" for me.
Oh,
That's
play
what it
Misty for
was.
me. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That would be like one of my first love experiences. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though that was kind of a stalker movie, really, but he had
Get off my back, Evelyn.
the girl that he was really in love with.
Yeah.
And they played that the first time ever I saw your face. I thought that was really romantic, and loved that.
Yeah.
I can't think of any others, but I just remember a lot of breakup songs that it's just like afterwards, you jerk, you said you were going to call and you didn't, and
Yeah.
no, I'm done. So too many of those in the '80s and '90s, and thank goodness I found my husband later on.
Yeah.
who
So,
who really didn't listen to music back then, so he doesn't know what I'm talking about usually.
so I'm curious,
Anyway.
how's the book been doing?
Um, Way better than I expected. I've had to do like I'm on my third printing of it because
Nice.
I had to order more. And lately, when I go to some of the wrestling conventions, I've gotten a table there as well, and is I found that's my best audience, of course, than for people who know about the EWA and the people in the business that I've given a few copies to have been very kind about writing it up and giving me a review of it, and it's the word of mouth has really gotten around, and I'm I mean, it was never going to be a million seller or anything, but I mean, it's for what it was and the audience it was going to reach, and for just the historical aspect of the wrestling, it's done way beyond what I ever could have imagined, and I'm glad I wrote it, and it reached it touched the chord that I wanted it to in people's memories. Like, I remember this, and it's a really fond memory of my childhood, and I think you will too, type thing.
Oh yeah.
So, and I've been very gratified by the people that have bought the book and then come back to me later and said, "Thank you for writing that. I've never seen another book like that, and it's you exactly described my childhood, and I love the pictures that you had because they're so unique, that's been really gratifying, more even than just selling books and the money, So I am really glad. I still have some if people are still interested, but and I have a website now, so it's really easy to get. So, but
have you been reuniting with old friends when you go to conventions and stuff?
Yeah, it's fun, and somebody just asked me, don't you think it's sad when you go to these conventions to see how much the stars have changed and how old they are now or anything? And I said, no, that's not at all how I feel. It's I'm just glad for the opportunity to meet them and to thank them for the memories they created for me, and to finally, I never would have had the chance to meet them when they were popular. They were too busy working, and so I think it's wonderful that they've found that as an outlet. Now, whether the ones that charge $300 and $400, I think it's still kind of a ripoff, but the vast majority of them have been nice to me and have charged a reasonable price, I think. So I'm grateful for that opportunity to have met, especially some of the Dark Shadows stars, and I was able to meet Adam West, and that would have never happened, and to meet so many of the wrestling stars. I just finally met Dory Funk Jr. A few weeks ago, and who was the NWA champion in the 70s, and I would have never had that opportunity. And he's in his 80s, but I still wanted to meet him. So I'm really enjoying that aspect of it, because I know it won't go on forever, and I know I don't like the wrestling business nowadays. So I don't know that I'll ever want to meet the stars of today, but and they are charging a fortune, as you pointed out.
Oh yeah.
The tickets themselves are a fortune, and I would have never been able to do what I did. Nowadays, you can't even take pictures at the matches. So I'm grateful for that I lived through the era that I did.
Yeah, my mom and I, we went to a Comic-Con 6 years ago, and she wanted to meet some of her favorite wrestlers of today, and she said she said to the guy, hit the handler, that she wanted a picture with them, and he was like $30, and she's like, really, $30? I'm an old lady, and so she didn't take it with him. She did take a picture with another wrestler though, that she takes pride in. I can't remember which one. It's one of the newer guys, but I mean, it's just insane how capitalistic it's become, and the athletes started it, the baseball players and football players started it, and then it worked its way down to Hollywood.
And once one of them starts charging, $200 and $300 for an autograph, then they all think they're worth that, and they all want to charge that. It's like, oh, well, I'm charging enough. I'm going to charge more. And yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Yeah, we went to, they had they have a sports spectacular in the fall and spring in Chicago, and went to that to see a couple of the wrestlers, and I just was some of the football and basketball stars that were there, and just the prices they were charging. I mean, obviously I've heard of all of them, but even there's I can't imagine paying, like you said, $400 and $500 for an autograph.
Mm-hmm.
But there were people that were in line for them, so I guess there's a demand. But anyway, yeah, I go for the lesser stars. So and I
Mm-hmm.
and also the vast majority of my wrestling autographs I got before they ever started charging for them. I got waiting by the backstage door.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy. So do you have anything?
yeah, it is.
So do you have anything upcoming you'd like to mention?
I'll be at the Waterloo Hall of Fame this summer. Waterloo, Iowa. They have a Hall of Fame induction meet in July, and then there's Charlotte, North Carolina, the Gathering Six, which about easily 50 to 100 stars going to be there from the old NWA days, and so uh, looking forward to that as well. But and then every once in a while, a one-off will pop up. So you never know. Uh, I just came off of going to Crusher Fest here in Milwaukee, and they had some stars up there, and was able to remember some of the AWA days as well as in St. Louis with some really great stars. So it's fun. It's still a fun thing for me to go to, but. I try to go to the less huge stars. I went to the one in Indianapolis where they had, and it was just wall to wall people, and it was because they had some of the biggest wrestling stars like Bret Hart and Mick Foley and
Mm-hmm.
X Pac and those guys. So they it was just a nightmare to try to get around and
Yeah.
see everybody. Hardly anybody had enough room, uh, but it was still an experience to go. I saw a couple of our friends were there, so uh, I enjoyed it. But I don't think that wouldn't be the ones that I would want to go to the most. One of the ones I enjoyed the most was going to Kansas City to see their PlanetCon,
Mm-hmm.
or was it GalaxyCon or PlanetCon? I think.
Yeah, I know
Anyway, it was
GalaxyCon.
yeah, a lot of fun. I've been to the one up in Minneapolis too, and they've got one coming up in November. I don't know if I'm going to make that or not, but always fun to go to them, and
Yeah.
especially when you're surprised by somebody that you didn't realize was going to be there, and then becomes one of the highlights of your trip. So.
Right.
Anyway, I'm glad you're enjoying doing the podcast, and glad you
Oh,
get to see so many of the stars that you admired growing up too.
oh, absolutely.
So,
Hey, I have a couple jokes for you.
all right.
Okay, you know the difference between a penis and a Rubik's cube?
No, Lord only knows.
The longer you play with them, the harder they get.
I don't. I doubt if there's very many men who would want it twisted around like a Rubik's cube, though.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then a guy walks into a psychiatrist's office and he has a duck on his head, and the psychiatrist says, "What's the problem?" The duck says, "Get this guy off my ass."
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, very good.
Thanks. A lot of people like
Very
that
good.
one.
Yeah, absolutely. I always look at it from the deck's point of view.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh,
Oh, very good. Well, it's been enjoyable as always, and so thank you for having me on and making me feel like anybody cares about what I think. And it's been fun reconnecting with you.
Absolutely, and also too, when I get some money, I will buy a copy of your book, before it runs out. So,
I'll put a copy aside for you.
thank you so much, Joyce.
Okay, Tommy, you take care and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much, you too.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Joyce Paustian, edgy a sweetheart. Oh my God, I just love Joyce. She's just so awesome and so wonderful, and I'm so glad that we could catch up again. I enjoyed every moment of talking with her today. Yeah, go to her website, www.joycepaustian.com, and get a copy of my ringside seat to the AWA. And like she said, there's only limited copies left. Hopefully I'll get one before they all run out. And check out the book. She is awesome, and her stories are awesome. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.